Welcome to Van Life with Steve, and thank you so much for joining me for part 3 of my series on Yellowstone. Now here we are heading in to the park once again, traveling along the Madison River, and again it is just so cool to drive past the steam rising up from the fumaroles as you enter the park. As with episode 2, we're going to forego a park summary, and I will include cards and links to the first 2 episodes. The first episode has the park summary, and as I was heading to the canyon, I came across this bison who was, I guess, moving between areas of the park, and he was a pretty big fellow there. And yeah, I guess apparently these solitary bison, that's actually a thing. And again, this is also another situation of how I mentioned that there's no real reason to worry if there's no turnouts available to view bison. They're all over the park. You don't have to worry about seeing a bison. And I'm using a telephoto lens here, and I gave this guy plenty of space, and he was such a good sport about being photographed, so appreciate him. And now we're going to head back over to the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone so we can check out the falls. In the distance there is the upper falls, and here is the lower falls, which at 308 feet is more than twice the height of Niagara Falls. I believe the lower falls of the Canyon of Yellowstone is the crown jewel not of just Yellowstone National Park, but of the entire national park system. This, in my opinion, is the most wonderful sight I've seen in all of the 26 national parks I've been to. It is absolutely incredible. It is almost like you're in a living fairy tale when you're looking at it, and it was such a surreal experience to go and just, you have this magic moment, and then you step aside for the next person to step up to the viewpoint, and you see them have the same experience. I came here to see Old Faithful and Grand Prismatic Spring and see the bison, and I ended up being completely blown away by the lower falls here. So now we're going to head down to the brink of the falls. Here's a squirrel here who is having himself a nice little lunch. And now we're looking at the Yellowstone River, and we're at the brink of the lower falls here. So as I mentioned, the lower falls are 308 feet in height, which is more than twice the height of Niagara Falls. However, it's much narrower than Niagara Falls, so the water flow rate is much less. It's still a very powerful waterfall. I've seen all the waterfalls in Yosemite and a lot of others, and I think this is the best one in America. There's a look at the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, and you see the just terrific looking yellow rocks there. We're going to spend a little time here and just take in the terrific view here of the canyon. So now we're going to head down to another viewpoint of the canyon, which has been carved over many years by the Yellowstone River. The yellowish hue on the rocks is actually the oxidation of iron that is in the rock. And so in effect, the color of the canyon comes from the canyon actually rusting. So the average depth of the canyon is between 800 and 1200 feet. The width varies between a quarter to 3/4 of a mile, and the canyon is about 24 miles long. As we take a look at the canyon here, if you're enjoying this content, I'd really appreciate so much if you'd please give me a like, and please consider subscribing if you want to see more of these videos. I went to 26 national parks, including 25 in a 60-day period, and I'm going to have videos from all of those parks, and also a bunch of other destinations in between. Please turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a video. Also, again, if you've been to Yellowstone National Park and you have a special memory of the park, I'd really love to hear what that experience was like. So please let me know about your experience at the park in the comments below. Thank you so much, and let's continue with the video. And here we'll have one last peek at the falls there in the background. Here's a sign with some information about the canyon. And with that, we're going to head to the next area of the park, which is going to be the Artists Paintpots. And this is another collection of little springs and vents and fumaroles. I wanted to finally find the Grand Prismatic Spring Overlook, and so I stopped here along the way. I was in a little bit of a bad mood here because there was a guy in a pickup truck and he didn't have a lot of consideration with his parking, and so it was very difficult to cram the van into the only available parking space right next to them. I didn't have a lot of confidence that they would be very considerate backing out of the parking space, so I made sure to get through this whole trail here and leave before them, so I made sure they didn't bump into my van or anything. Here's a close look at one of the paint pots, and it's pretty cool. It kind of gives you vibes of like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for some reason, but this is all pretty neat. Also remember, all of these springs and whatnot, they're all very hot, so don't try to walk over to them and put your hand in them or anything like that. You'll get hurt, so don't do that. This channel is my honest experience with all the parks, and I do have to say, some of you may be familiar with the term Turon, which is a portmanteau of tourist and moron. And the visitors at Yellowstone are the absolute worst behaved of all of the national parks I visited, and it is sort of a drag on the experience at the park. Overall, like I said in the first video, Yellowstone is an absolute great national park. It's in my top 5 parks. I would have it number 1 if it wasn't for the inconsiderate park visitors. And it's not the majority of park visitors. It could be 10%, it could be 30%, but there are some people that get there. I'm sure you've seen all the videos on Instagram where people, they get in there and they get drunk and they want to try to pet bison, and they do all this stuff, and it is a real drag on the experience. And I don't know if I have a solution to it. I think maybe charging people more money to get into the park, and maybe if people had to put more skin in the game, so to speak, and the park service would permanently ban them, perhaps their behavior would improve. But it is a serious issue, and it's something you need to know about if you're going to visit the park. So that's my rant or spiel on that, and let's continue with the video. Here's a quick look at Gibbon Falls, pretty cool waterfall, and the river is the Gibbon River. And now we're back to the Middle Geyser Basin, and we're going to head out to the Grand Prismatic Spring Overlook. There isn't a sign that says this is the Grand Prismatic Overlook. You have to park at the Fairy Falls trailhead, and then it's about a mile walk. Here's a tip: if you drive up to the Grand Prismatic Spring and you see steam rising, don't get on this trail. That's an okay view, but I Typically, the best views of the Grand Prismatic Spring are going to be in the summertime when the temperature is around 70 degrees and it's sunny. So with that, that's going to complete our series on Yellowstone. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the series on Yellowstone Park, and I will catch you next video. Thanks and take care. Bye.